Mr. Mayor.
You're in favour that we go with confidential after the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund, as the councillor's going to know.
Mr. Mayor, you then need to pass a resolution at that point.
I just asked. They walked off out.
Sorry? For it to be confidential.
Yeah, after the Sandwich Tollbridge meeting. Oh, it's Councillor Sampson vanished. Councillor Freeman. So, are you happy if we go into confidential at the end of the Sandwich Tollbridge meeting? You happy with that?
Yeah.
I think you are. Thank you. Okay. So, Sandwich Tollbridge meeting. Item 1, approval for apologies for absence.
Apologies received from Councillor Fox, who has a personal commitment.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, declaration of interest. I think we've got a grant application, so I'll have to declare a pecuniary interest on the age concern. Okay. Right. Item 3, minutes. To approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Sandwich Town Council as trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund, Bridge Fund, held on the 28th of November 2022. Attachment 1.
Recommend approval.
Seconder?
We weren't there.
Okay. All in favour? 4. Payment schedules. 1. To approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund schedule of payments for December. Attachment 3.
Recommend approval of payment.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I do apologise. I do believe you missed item 2 on number 3.
Oh, sorry. Item 2. Jumping ahead. Trying to get done now.
Yes, am I?
Item 2. To approve the minutes of the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee meeting 12th of December 2022. Attachment.
Recommend approval.
Second that.
All in favour? Thank you. 4. Payment schedules. 1. To approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund schedule of payments for December. Attachment 3.
Recommend approval.
Okay. Second that. All in favour? This is the next one. What's that, item 2? Item 2. To approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall schedule of payments for December. Attachment 4. Lovely, if you have an addition.
Yeah, I've had to add one invoice to that from a temporary caretaker that we've been using over the last few weeks, and so the total is now £21,176.92. So that's an addition of £185.
Okay. Okay.
Recommend approval.
Recommend approval. Second that.
Second that with
Your
the
favour?
amendments made by the RFO.
To approve the Museum and Archives payment schedule for December. Attachment 5.
Recommend approval.
Second. All in favour?
Everyone else has lost their voice, Captain.
5. Finances and investments. 1. To receive and note the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund statement of accounts as of 30th November 2022. Attachment 6.
Second.
All in favour? Oh, one against. Oh, one abstain. Or one against. 2. To receive and note the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall statement of accounts as at 30th of November 2022. Attachment 7.
Second.
You all in favour? Thank you. 3. To receive and note the Sandwich Guildhall Museum statement of account as at 30th November 2022. Attachment 8.
Move.
Second.
All in favour? Thank you. 4. To receive and note the Quilted Cheviot Investment Management Monthly Report as at 30th November 2022. Attachment 9.
Second.
All in favour? 6. Delegated power to dispose of non-actioned objects. Trustee is asked to receive and consider a report from the museum coordinator seeking delegated power to dispose of unaccessioned objects. Attachment 10. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah. Oh, I can sit down.
Yeah.
It is the case that museums do have to dispose of material objects and archives from time to time. And I do accept that, given that the archives are being moved, that there may well be space issues. However, it seems to me that there are two risks involved in the disposal of material objects and archives. The first is that museums that dispose of material objects and archives get a reputation for doing that, and that can have implications for people who wish to donate or leave material objects and archives. And it can lead to them not leaving stuff to a museum or an archive because they think that museum and archive will dispose of what they're proposing to do. The other risk of disposing of items, and I've encountered this myself, is that you dispose of the wrong items. Now, it's very, very difficult to predict what researchers will want to be looking at in 100 years' time. Very difficult. But what I would suggest we do in this particular case is we mitigate the risk and ameliorate the responsibility which a single person would be bearing for this decision making about what to dispose of by suggesting, indeed I would say insisting, that the museum coordinator engages with at least one other person, and that other person should be perhaps a committee member or a member of the Sandwich Local History Society, the Sandwich Society, or any other relevant organisation that engages with material objects and archives, so that she is helped in making this decision. And it would mean that she wouldn't be solely responsible, because it is a risky activity to dispose of archives and material objects. Though I can see exactly why it has to be done. But I don't think we should allow one person to have sole responsibility for that. I think it's bad for that person, and I think it's bad for the future, as far as this council is concerned.
I think we do have a museum committee, don't we?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't have a museum. I thought we did. I thought it was part of the toll bridge. I thought we only done away with the Sandwich Town Council committees. I thought we still had the toll bridge museum committee. Councillor Freeman.
Yeah, we didn't get rid of the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund committees, but we also refused to appoint people to those committees at one point. So it lies in state at the moment.
I think what's going to happen. I think the museum manager, she should tell us what artefacts she wishes to get rid of.
That's it.
And then we get perhaps John Hennessy from the History Society. He can give his. So I think that the items should be individually notified to the town council. Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Anderson is saying. Maybe we shouldn't give the delegate powers to the museum coordinator, but she gives us a list of what she wants to dispose of, and then the committee can go through it and say, well, no, that's not. You see what I mean? So we can, and then we can say yes or no to those items that want to be disposed, because I've got a scary feeling that something might disappear that might be worth a lot to the council or to the museum and disappears.
I think it's most probably items that don't actually pertain to Sandwich. Councillor.
I was just going to say, I don't know who's on the Sandwich Museum Committee.
There isn't one.
Well, who was on the Sandwich Museum Committee? But I don't think there's anyone there qualified in that kind of thing. But what about asking that lady that sorted all the archives out? You know, she was ill for a very long time.
She was on the museum committee.
She was on the
She
museum.
was on, but why don't we just ask her then? Because she was an archivist, so...
Well, if we get a list, Councillor, of all the items that she wishes to dispose of or sell on our behalf, we can then ask people like John Hennessy, like Linda, I can't think of her surname, for their advice, can't we?
We can, yeah.
Councillor Wells.
Yeah, I agree completely with Councillor Anderson. I think giving absolute power to a single member of staff who's been in post for barely a year would be absolutely wrong. I've been up in the archive. I mean, there is a lot of junk up there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole wall of yellow pages.
Yeah.
Some people might argue that they're not worth keeping, but perhaps 50 years from now they might be worth keeping. So we need to give the museum coordinator either a committee or a group of local history archivists assistance with this work and not allow a single person to make that decision.
Councillor.
Thank you. I just wonder if the problem is really one of space, and it might be useful if we are to be given a list, and I must say I probably wouldn't know whether we're keeping anything, but whether there shouldn't be priorities and maybe those that are definitely for disposal could be marked, and then others which might be in a grey area could be flagged up, because it may be that it's worth finding archive space somewhere else for some of the items. I'm conscious that, you know, since I moved to Sandwich, I'm conscious of the importance and the fragility of its historical heritage, and I wouldn't want to be too gladly disposing of items.
Councillor Carter.
Yes, I'd just like to say, Mr. Chairman, I think you should seek the advice of John Hennessy, who's the chair of the History Society. I'm secretary to the History Society, and when I undertake the minutes, the members of that committee are all qualified. Some of them are doctors of their subject, and most of them are the archivists, or were the archivists when the archive was open. So I would think he would be a very good person.
So if you was to provide us with a list of objects, we could then ask the experts their opinion, and then it can come out whether we say yay or nay. That's all right.
I think, I mean, also you need to go through every single document, you know, page by page. There's been lots of recorded cases of very precious documents being found tucked inside books or, you know, underneath a file. So you need to make sure that every single piece of paper is checked and double checked.
So we don't want to give her delegated powers, do we? We'd like her to provide us with a list of objects that she wishes to dispose.
Yes, just to amend that, if that's a proposal, Mr. Mayor, and then what we were saying about so add in consultation with local experts on history of Sandwich.
Yeah, I think come back to the full council.
It's probably the co-optees of the previous museum committee are obviously still in post, like John Hennessy and Peter Elliott and Donoghue, among others. So it might be worth encouraging really to engage with the previous co-opted members of the museum committee.
So we're all in favour that we ask her for a list and we go from there? Thank you. Now we've got that now, 11.
What's next
On item 11 on the back, also item 11, I don't know if you read at the back, to approve an investigation and potential disposal of the museum collection. There are some things that she thinks should not be there, and I think we should need an expert to examine the objects because of there we go. Okay. The items the report refers to are military items, mostly ammunition, which include shells, bullets and bombs. I think when we had the previous item that went to Dover Castle, I think these were looked at, but unfortunately I think the paperwork's gone missing. So I think we need to get the expert back from Dover Castle just to double check, or ask him for his paperwork, because he's most probably got the paperwork at hand.
That's correct.
So you're happy that we... the
detail that we asked.
yeah, to make sure that they are deactivated and do not pose a health and safety risk.
That's right, yeah. From the Royal Engineers Unit, Dover.
Yeah, yeah, where many used to, where the museum used to work.
That's right.
Yeah, are you all happy that we do that?
Yeah.
We get the expert.
Could I just say, I think this report is very vague. You know, if we're being asked to make decisions, we need more explicit
What about this?
information.
About this?
Attachment 11.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's no costing. I would like to know the cost of getting it, but and I didn't know what these dangerous things were. But
No, United today.
you've told us now.
Yeah, I think they've been checked because he came here and did a visit.
I think it was done about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, it's quite recently, wasn't it? Yeah.
There's also a man trap up there, which is rather dangerous.
Well, that's all right. It was not set.
That's what you say.
Don't give people ideas.
Anyway, you're happy that we get the expert in?
Yeah.
I shouldn't think there'd be any cost because I think he's already got the paperwork at the museum at Dover. Okay. Oh, well, is that what you mean? Yeah, do you want to vote on that? But we ask the expert in to have a look and yeah. I think I've declared an interesting item 8, concession for room hire costs. So Councillor Carter would like just to run this one through and I should just go to the minutes for a minute.
Eight.
I need to declare interest as well.
Okay, then item number 8, this is to approve a grant to cover the cost of the Guildhall room hire for the Age Concern Christmas party. The trustees are asked to consider a letter as attached with this report from the Chief Officer of the Age Concern Sandwich with respect to providing a free room hire for the Christmas party for the retired residents of the town on the 15th of December 2022. In order to assist the trustees to make an informed decision with regard to awarding this concession, the Chief Officer of Age Concern has supplied the following details of the charges they raised for this event to cover the costs. I won't read through the list, I don't think. But the recommendation is for trustees are asked to consider waiving room hire costs for the Age Concern Christmas party. Councillor Sebakai.
Not to be a party pooper, but don't those people pay for their dinner? The age concerned people. So why would we give free room hire? I hate to be like this, but why? When those people are paying for their food anyway, it's not so that they can give a free meal to people that need it. It's people that can pay, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Obviously, they need a meeting room that's large enough to take the number of people that are required for that.
Okay, they usually have it here. Do we usually waive the room fee?
We do.
No, we don't.
I thought we did.
I don't even know how much the room hire is.
Hand over to
Yeah,
Councillor
I don't have, I mean,
Oh, I'm saying
the
that.
financial officer can probably advise as well, but we don't actually do grants retrospectively either.
Oh, have they had it?
If
Yeah,
it's following the pattern of a normal grant application, we do not, because that's in the grant criteria. I put this forward because instead of actually giving them money, we're giving them a concession. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, it has been the case. I mean, even when Lights Committee, Folk and Hour, etc., want to use rooms within the Guildhall, they still have to apply to the Tollbridge Fund for the equivalent room rental. So it's a normal Tollbridge Fund application for money, and it's retrospective.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that just to put things straight is as Councillor Friend has said, there has been applications and concessions have been given in the past.
For
Not retrospective.
age
Not
concern.
retrospectively. This is quite unusual to come retrospectively. But in the past, when organisations, including myself, for the Christmas lights, which I ran, I would ask to use, say, the main hall, and then we would get what's called a concession, where the actual hall hire is waived.
But that's great because at that time you had no money, did you? But I know that Age Concern got a rather considerable grant from DDC recently, didn't they?
Yeah, I was going to so there was a considerable grant at the beginning of the year. I can't remember
It
exactly
was
how
a
much
big
that was.
grant.
There was another grant in the summer for £20,000, and last week there was another grant for
They
£20,000.
have more. I don't mean to say this because it's old people, but we're not helping anyone, are we?
Can I go across it? Councillor Sampson?
Yeah, so I'm going to disagree a little bit. Yeah, so I think in recognition of the good work that Age Concern do around the town, we should waive this room hire cost. Yeah, propose that.
I don't mind if you do. It's just.
And we'll have a good discussion on this, Councillor Wiles.
Well, another report where it's lacking essential information. What is the room hire for this event?
Absolutely, it's
There's no
impossible to
application.
discover from the website what the cost of the room is.
Yeah.
Karen, sorry, to some of the questions I need to ask. Two questions I want to ask Karen, sorry, Chair. But number one, how much was the room hire? Number two, why wasn't this put on the November's agenda for the Telbridge Fund? And three, I agree with what Councillor Friend is saying, is the fact that, and also Councillor Carter, is the fact that it's retrospective, so we can't allow it, it's against the rules. And also two, it's the fact that every time I've done an event and I've had to hire the meeting room, the old meeting room or the Delph room, I've had to pay every single time. Every single time, even including the Folk and Ale as well, and other events. So I don't see why we as this we should allow to waive it. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Can we,
Can we do ask the question?
yes, please.
I believe the room hire would be between £200 and £300. The reason it wasn't put on the November's agenda was because it came in the day before this agenda had to go ahead, and I didn't personally want to tell the woman who was very insistent that it wouldn't go on the agenda.
No offence to you, but that's the chief executive's from Age Concern's problem. That's not yours. It came in late, so it shouldn't have gone in the first place. It shouldn't have been allowed it until it was agreed. That's my opinion anyway.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wiles?
Okay, so now we know it's up to £300. So we're talking about maybe £1.30 per head for the room hire. So is that a big?
It is when you think that they pay
Exactly,
£13 or
and they
£14
pay money
they
for it,
will.
yeah.
They don't give it.
I think Age Concern contributes to
Councillor
something that
Pennington.
we said. I think Age Concern does a fantastic work in the town, and there are many people who benefit from it. I don't know what the consequences of us saying to no this request will be financially for them, because the event's already taken place, so it will leave them with a hole in their budget. But really, to send a letter on the 13th of December asking for a grant for an event on the 15th of December, you know, I think they should be told they have to be a bit more organised.
No, just come back once.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I agree with Councillor Pennington. I believe that this has been was put in way too late. It's not the Telbridge Fund's problem. It's Age Concern's problem. They've charged the residents to do it. If it was free, then I would say yes. Okay, we'll pay for it. But because they've charged the residents for the food, my recommendation is that the Telbridge Fund rejects this application.
I'll second that.
Well, I had a proposal from Councillor Sampson.
Oh, what was that?
Did you have a seconder for your
I
proposal?
didn't have a seconder, I don't believe.
Would
Could
anybody
you
like?
remind us what your motion is? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
you did one.
Yeah, it was a little while ago actually, that's when I spoke. My name's forgettable, I'm forgettable. No, it was just moving that we do waive the room hire costs, but I don't think I got a seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay then, so can we vote on this proposal first of all, please? All those in favour?
That we waive the
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2. Right, well, it's equal, so
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Oh, did you not put yours up? Sorry.
I didn't, and I'm just going to say something. This is a precedent, so does everyone get free room hire now? Anyone that's doing things
without an application?
That's
form.
exactly what I'm going for. That's
With,
exactly
with
what
your
we're referring
card
to.
up, it's actually the proposals failed.
Good. So my proposal now, which is
So now we go forward with, and could you repeat your proposal,
my
please?
proposal is to reject the room hire, so Age Concern have to pay for it.
Could you
Reject
say-
the application.
Well,
Could you say it more loudly?
Sorry, my proposal is to reject the application
Can you say why though, Dean?
because it's retrospective, which is not allowed, and also because they charge their residents for the food, which is
Yeah,
not
we
unfair.
give grants to people
Exactly.
that give
But
things
John-
through.
And every other committee and every other event has to pay for the room hire, so why shouldn't they?
Thank you for that. Could you tell me who your seconder is?
Me. It was me.
Thank you. Oh, no, there's no more questions. We're voting now, I'm afraid. Sorry, there's no more questions. We're going to the vote.
I was just going to ask if Councillor Marie would agree to the reasons being put on
We
for
need
the,
the reasons.
for the
Yeah.
refusal.
Yes.
So can we vote on,
It's not an application. This isn't an application form, it's a letter.
yeah,
We're not refusing an application, we're refusing a request by
That's
a letter.
correct,
It's
yeah.
not a process. that
it's
we
to
go through.
refuse the letter. So all those in favour or otherwise, please show. So that's passed. So that's agreed.
But Karen, could you please put the reasons down? Because otherwise it makes us look like
Yes.
Scrooge.
Yes.
We won't call you cringe.
I don't mind if you do. It's not free for the
No,
old people,
no,
so
totally agree.
All good.
I don't know whether they should do one or two, do they?
Thank you.
Look, you decide whether you can do option one or option two, but I don't know if
Okay. Item 9, the Empire Cinema boundary wall. Trustees are asked to consider the works required to the boundary wall at the Empire Cinema, attachment 13. Councillor Wiles?
I think this is another report where things are slightly back to front. I think the first thing we need to do is appoint a structural engineer to advise on exactly what needs to be building or repairing, and then to advise also on the party wall situation. And then come back to this committee with a fixed proposal.
Councillor Gray?
I would agree, because it's not at all certain whether it is a party wall or
No.
not, and you've really got to establish that first before you can do anything else.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wonder if they don't have buildings insurance and if there would not be a case for claiming under a policy. I know it's a listed building, which makes it rather difficult.
We don't think the wall's listed. I'm not quite sure the wall's listed. I think years ago, I definitely know Dale Street very well, Councillor, but Malt Shovel House used to be a public house.
Yeah.
And next to there was their own hall, which they did, you know, weddings and different things in. And then must have got, I think it caught fire. And then I'm not sure the town council actually purchased the site, but the town council or borough council built the cinema, and I think that wall is part of the old remaining wall of the former hall. So it's really wifty-wafty, and it's in very urgent state of, I think it wants part of it knocking down. Councillor Graham.
And I don't think it's anything to do with the cinema.
Okay, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, I entirely agree with Councillor Wiles.
Yeah.
Both these items need to be turned on their head. Trustees to consider commissioning, trustees asked for agreement, trustees asked to consider proposing remedial works.
Yeah.
The other thing that we could ask, which I'm not entirely sure of, is whether the cinema have a full repairing lease,
No, I'm not quite sure about that.
which could cloud the issue a bit.
Yeah. Because I don't think I've got any.
Assuming the wall is
Councillor
included.
Pennington had a
Well,
really...
assuming the walls are clear.
Excuse
It probably
me.
isn't.
Councillors, please, one at a time.
I just heard Councillor Pennington ask if the building has buildings insurance, and they will have, so it might be able to be paid from that. I know we own it, But is it up to us to ensure?
Well, I think we'd have to get expert advice, won't we, from the solicitors.
Yeah.
I think we've got to get solicitors' advice, legal advice, who actually owns the wall, and then
who-
we'll have to get following on from that. I think then we have to get a builders, don't we?
And whether insurance is involved.
And insurance.
If I agree with Councillor Wiles, if Councillor Wiles has made that motion, I'll second that regarding getting the structural engineering first.
And finding out who owns it.
Well, I think it's got to be a structural engineer and a solicitor who need to find out the legality, whether it's shared with the property next door.
Yeah.
Okay, you all in favour of that? Okay, thank you. Item 10. Grant application. To consider a grant application from Sandwich Salutes the Forties Festival for £2,000 to contribute to the 2023 event. Please note there is already an overspend of £10,020 on this year's grants budget. The suggested 2023-24 grants budget is £20,000. Trustees are asked to confirm which financial year this grant should be allocated to if successful. Attachment 14. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I had a conversation with Simon Malik just before the meeting. Obviously, there the budget. We've got a budget. We're over the budget now for this year. I did speak to him regarding the application being approved today, possibly, and the money to be given out of the next financial year, so it doesn't put us over any more over budget. So it's a great event. It's really well looked after. Simon is a brilliant chair to it. He's got a lot of great ideas, what he said in his statement earlier. Okay. So I recommend approval for the grant on the proviso that it's paid after when the new financial year comes in.
Second.
I just wanted to say that I wanted to propose that it was we give the money, but in the new year. But I just wanted to be assured that there won't be any people in German uniforms, because I have seen them myself with my own eyes. And they're quite scary when you've been brought up not to...
Am I allowed to speak?
Well, I think you've already given us that assurance earlier, Mr. Malcolm.
I would like to second then Dean's thing, that we do give this money.
Okay, good.
In the new financial year.
In the next financial year. You're happy with that we grant this thing, would it be in the next financial year?
Yes, I think it's an interesting event, and Simon and I have talked about this. What has worried me as much as the presence of men, and it is men, in SS and other German type uniforms, is a sort of anti-German feeling, which also worries me. And I think that was particularly the case in the first 2 or 3 events, and I was pleased to see that that was not the case, or I didn't see anything that struck me as particularly anti-German. Because I do think, I mean, in a way, I regret that these events are so popular, because I prefer that they concentrate on peace rather than war and reconciliation. And I do think that this country should be reconciled with Germany, and indeed, in many ways, is. And that should continue, and that should not be an anti-German sentiment, which I did detect in others.
Okay, so thank you. Going back into confidential. Yeah, we have voted to go into confidential. We'll be back to the. No. Oh.
We've got a vote.
We haven't voted on this.
Yeah, we voted on the grant application, haven't we? And it goes into the next financial year.
We need to vote.
We need to vote.
We haven't voted yet.
I thought I saw a load of
Right,
hands.
let's have a little vote now.
Okay. I think it's unanimous. Yeah.
Right. Apologies.
Yeah. The date of the next Holbridge meeting was Monday the 30th of January 2023. Yeah. Yeah. So we need a vote on going to confidential. Okay. Yeah. I've got all my paperwork. Item 15, confidential matters. 1. It is recommended that under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, Section 1, Item 2, as extended by Section 100 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and accredited representatives of newspapers be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 by virtue of the paragraph specified against the
Not yet.
So, are we in favour of?
Can I ask what the paragraph is?
It's item 1 of the confidential.
No, it's the paragraph of section 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. What is the number of the paragraph? Because this is information that we have to be given, and we never are. It's always said that it's mentioned against the item, and it never is. And I think it really has to be.
I've raised this item many times before, in that there are 7 paragraphs, I think, under Schedule 12A, which each of which sets out the heads, and the agenda must specify which head you are claiming exemption under, because that's what the agenda say, but they never specify why it is which of those items makes it exempt from public participation. And that ignore the whole question about the public interest test, which, as far as I'm concerned, is never ever considered here by this council.
I think it's because we're talking about the provision of covering staff absences, aren't we?
Mr. Mayor, we're talking about staff's contracts, salaries, stuff like that, personal details for staff. Staff don't want their details being broadcast
No,
live.
we're not talking about personal.
Councillor, please stop interrupting.
No, he interrupted Councillor Anderson.
That doesn't concern you, does it?
It does.
I don't think he did. Councillor Marie, please carry on.
I was just saying, it's a confidential item due to the fact we're talking about members of the personal items for the members of the people that work here. So, this is why it's confidential, because it's their details. They don't want their details broadcast in the public domain. Ours are, because we're elected representatives. They're not. They're paid employees. So, my recommendation is to continue with the confidential items.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think I was before you.
You were okay, yes.
I totally accept what Councillor Marie is saying, but what I'm raising is a question of principle, and that is that we are told that on every agenda that the paragraph of section 12A that is relevant to this particular item has been identified, and it never is. So what I'm saying is that in future that paragraph should be given against all confidential items or proposed confidential items, and the public interest condition is also explained away, because all those paragraphs in section 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 can be disregarded if the public interest is strong enough. So all that has to be explained, and we have to be able to vote on it. I'm not saying that right now we should vote about this. I do agree that this item should be confidential. However, in future, all agendas should be properly drawn up, and we should vote on whether or not an item is to be confidential.
Second.
Agreed, yeah. I agree absolutely with what Councillor Anderson said. She's wrong in one respect, because not all paragraphs are subject to the public interest. Some are absolute exemptions, but the bulk of them are. But in this instance, we have already voted on the fact that they should be confidential. So, so it doesn't matter for the purposes of this meeting, but in future, the agendas must state which paragraph under Schedule 12A applies to the item which the council wants to keep confidential.
Yes, I mean that it always says it is declared, and it never is.
Time and time again, I've asked the chief executive which paragraph, and she's usually told me. Other times she's ignored my request.
So we're going to consider this now or not?
No, we don't need to. We've already voted that this item is confidential.
That's what I said. Are we going to go into confidential or not?
It's still being filmed.
Have you actually done the vote? Have you? Because I didn't notice you do the vote.
No. I thought we voted earlier for.
Did you?
Confidential.
You voted to defer, but I wasn't sure if you.
This item should be confidential.
2 items should be confidential.
One item.
Christina has to stop filming.
Yes, of course. I do. Once the vote's taken place to exclude the public, and I just wasn't sure that I'd actually seen that.
Yes.
Have I seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's
I
off
thought
the.
we just did it to